If you want to learn C++ or you are interested in it, you are at the right place. I started programming with the beginning of this channel. Use the timestamps for a better overview by hovering over the time bar, and not to forget, if you like the content and want to be part of the future community, consider to subscribe and leave a like. And with this, let's start the video. Today we are again on learncpp.com and we start with chapter 1.4, variable assignment and initialization, and we finally start with actual coding and try to look how to make a variable. In the last video we looked what a variable is, and we looked into the types of variables, here in this example integer, and into the identifier, the x, what name it has. And with that we have defined the variable, and in this video we look how to give our variable a value and run it in the console. And the next part is variable assignment. We can finally give our variable a value now, and we make that with an assignment operator, and we say then it is equal to 5. And like this, always the number that we have defined will be copied to the variable on the left, not reversed. If the 5 would be on the left side and the width on the right side, it would not work. And we have also an example here when we define it twice. We have here the width is equal to 5, and then later we change it to width is 7. The first time we print 5 because we define it to 5 and then to 7 and printed it out again because the value changed to 7 because we set this. It is now 7, and if we would say print it out again, it would say 7 again because the 5 is overwritten. And now I quickly write it in the Visual Studio so you can better understand it. And now we can run our program and we can see we get the output 5 and 7. And now we can do this away here, and then you might notice that both of them are equal to 5. And this is just because we redefined the width. And if we would define this different, it would give us a different outcome. It is just that the program runs from the top to the bottom, and when the value of this variable changes, then it will print that or copy that into the variable and stays like that. And now we are coming to initializations, and in here we have 6 different types of initializations that we are looking into, and yeah, that's what we do now. And first we have the default initialization. This is basically an initialization without a value given to it. And the next one is copy initialization, and it basically does what it says. It copies the value 5 into the identifier width, and that is basically what it does. And it's always from the right hand side, and it copies the right hand side into the identifier. And this is inherited from the language C, and nowadays we use some other initializations in the C++ language, because in C++ 17 they included some new initializations, and we will soon go into them. And now we are coming to direct initialization. It is basically an initialization that is more efficient than the copy initialization, because we directly put the value into the identifier directly after it in brackets, because that is how they made and how they can be accessed. And those are not used that much nowadays because they are replaced by the list initialization now that was added by C++ 17 that we discuss right after that. And it is also not that used anymore because it looks most of the time much like a function, because function also use brackets at the end and they look very, very similar. And now we are coming to list initialization, and we have them because they want a similar syntax for all the different types of variables, for the direct, the copy, and the value variable. And the first one is basically what we had, that direct, instead of just normal brackets, we have now curly brackets, and then here we have the equal sign, then curly brackets instead of no brackets, and then we have the brackets with nothing inside, so we can give it a value later. And those variables, those list initializations, are very useful because they also say if you have done something wrong, and they give you an error. For example, if you have an integer and you say 4.5, it will say this is an error because an integer cannot hold a dot something number. It has to be a full number, and it says the corresponding error to it. And then it is really preferred, like it says here, that you use list initialization because it is what you use nowadays. Even the author says of C++ that it is recommended to use list initialization for your code. And next we have the value initialization. This is the integer width with a empty curly bracket, and when you have that, you have to give it a value, and you have to do this with the command std ... sin, and we learn that in the next chapter, but for now you have to note that this will make that you can enter whatever you want, and in this case we want an integer, so a number, and we can enter a number to give it a value. And I have made an example here in Visual Studios to show that. And you have here the normal variable that we make it equal to 0. This is the direct initialization, and here we have the value initialization. When we run this, you can see we will get a 0 from the direct initialization because we already have the value and we print it out and say print x. And then we have the value initialization, we have our y and it's empty, and now we want to add the number, and now we have to enter it, and we can type on our keyboard, for example 2, and then we have to click enter, and then it will add this to our console. And this is how value initialization works. And here we have a quick topic, initialize your variables, that just says that you have to initialize your variables directly when you create them, so that it is just better practice. And this is discussion also discussed by the creator of C++ by himself. You could look his recommendation here if you want. And now we are coming to the initializing multiple variables, and here in this example they show how you can basically make multiple variables in one line and initializing them. And if you want to do that, you can do it, but like they already said, they don't recommend it, and you should initialize each value on a different line, so we have a much better overview over everything. Otherwise it could be confusing, and that is why we go now to the next topic. And now we go to the next topic, and is unused initialized variable warnings. This means it gives you a warning when your variable is not used, so we can make an example with it. For example, this from before, if we say we don't want to print out our SD console, and we delete that quickly to show it better, it will say us it cannot run, and it says no, it does not want, and we should go on the debugger, so it shows us the error, and it says us the following warning is treated as an error, and then we go and look at it. The following warning is treated as an error. here, and the error is x local variable is initialized but not referred. So it gives us this error because it is not initialized. And when we would say we have this std console out and then say the x, then it will be all okay because we have it here and it will print it out. But if we don't, it will give us an error. So you have this problem maybe. But there is also another solution that we have. If you have some more complex code and you want to let it stay in your code, just to not cause some confusion when you just print it out, or it is not that easy to print it out just like that, you can also put that in front of it. I just copied it in and it says maybe unused, and then the compiler treats it like a comment, but not exactly. You could comment it out, but you can also put the maybe unused before it, and when you start the program now, you can see it runs perfectly, and we just have nothing in the console right now, but it works fine. And the last thing we do is the quiz, and the question is, what is the difference between initialization and assignment? The difference is initialization gives directly a value to our variable. The assignment, like it says, gives a value after we have made our variable by the command syn to type in a specific number, for example, or by saying the value or the identifier is now another number in the program, so we assign a new number to it. And the show solution says initialization gives a variable initial value at the point when it's created. Assignment gives the variable a value at some point after the variable is created. Yes, exactly. And what form of initialization should you prefer when you want to initialize a variable with a specific value? You should prefer a direct initialization because you can directly put a value to it, and it is a direct list initialization. It even says list initialization because we should use the list initialization, not the previous one, because of the syntax, because it's much more used and much more comfortable to use because of the syntax. And the third question, what are default initialization and value initialization? What is the behavior of each? Which should you prefer? Default initialization is just initialization without a value, and it just says integer a, finish. And it has no value at all, and you have to say later a equals to something. And the value initialization is almost the same, just that you have it in your brackets. It is one of the list initializations that we had, that had the empty brackets that you can use to put a value into it in the same way that you can do in the default initialization. They do the same, but the value initialization is a bit better because of the syntax. And now we have default initialization is when a variable initialization has no integer initializer int x. In most cases, the variable is left with an indeterminate value. Value initialization when a variable initialization has empty brace, integer x empty braces. In most cases, this will perform zero initialization. You should prefer value initialization to default initialization. Like, yeah, it says because here is just zero because it is nothing inside, so it is called zero. The other one has just nothing at all inside. And yeah, that's it for the question part. And that's it for the video. If you're still here, I very appreciate it. You could join our Discord or just leave a comment or subscription or whatever you want. And I would say I hope you learned something or enjoyed it watching it. And with that, I say bye.